Welcome to the Big Brilla Podcast, proudly the biggest Mississippi FC podcast in the world. You know, as always, the Big Brilla Podcast proudly brought to you by the Taylor Group with Keller Williams Realty. Both Scott and Amanda Taylor are from the Clinton area, and they take pride in walking beside both first-time homebuyers and seasoned home buying veterans. Put them to the test and put them to work for you. Call Scott at 601-460-4868. You can email him at scott.taylor@kw.com or just go visit their website, thetaylorgroup.co. That's thetaylorgroup.co. My name is Robert Chapman, and this past weekend didn't necessarily go as planned for the Mississippi Brilla FC, dropping a road match to Hattiesburg 3-1, while also collecting some yellow cards and a couple red cards. On Saturday, June the 13th, HFC jumped up to a 2-0 lead fast. They jumped up so fast. Their striker, Dugan, scored their first goal in the 8th minute, followed by a redirect from Kai Thurston on the 12th minute to give Hattiesburg that 2-0 early lead. To add insult to injury, Nico Rodriguez collected 2 yellow cards in about 6 minutes' time for dangerous tackles, leaving Brilla down a man only 34 minutes into the match. Julian Diaz picked up his first yellow soon after Nico was sent off, which would be a problem down the road because he did eventually get a second one. Brilla ended the half down by 2 and down a man. Starting right back at the second half, Julian Recalde spiced things up for Mississippi Brilla FC, scoring 2 minutes into the second half, cutting Hattiesburg's lead in half. How many times can I say half in one sentence? But a goal by Danny Malero in the 66th minute took the lead back to 2 goals, which is where it stayed. Soon after that, that's when Diaz was shown his second yellow, earning him a red card and leaving Brilla down to play with only 9 men. It was not the showing we wanted, and to be quite honest, it wasn't the showing we needed. In my watching from the house opinion, I can argue that the cards weren't necessary. I mean, you could say they were necessary, but you could argue that they weren't necessary. There probably should have been more leeway to let the guys play and more of a stern warning to let players know that enough was enough rather than just jumping straight into cards like that. I could also argue that the calls were inconsistent. A few tackles were made in similar fashion by the Thunder, and they didn't receive similar officiating. So the frustrating of Brilla's sideline is understandable and justifiable. But, like I have said repeatedly, the officiating sits in their judgment, solely in the judgment of the man in the middle. I can agree or disagree all day long. It's not going to matter to what his decisions are. He's the one who made the calls, and his calls are the ones that we are to roll with. I have a feeling that some of the discussion from the team leadership centers on controlling what we can control, performing the duties that are assigned, and growing as players and as a team. If I'm a player, I can't make the officials call it this way or that way, but I can make sure that I'm doing my job and I take care of what is in front of me. Do your job. Do what is assigned to you. There is no other option, and I have a feeling that's going to be the MO moving forward. Now, one guy who does a great job each week is Coach Will Nations, who is with us from the Nations. Brother Will Nations, how are you today? I see, again, we've got another old school throwback Brilla jersey on. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, just trying to pull them all out of the closet just to, I guess, spice up my little segment, but also keep the people wondering what jersey might be donned in the next segment.
I'm about to say, I think I got one previously that they did. I can't remember what brand it was, but I've got one. It was a Morgan White group on the front of it, so it was. I wonder if it might have been the first or the second go round they did with MWG, but I've got one. That was also when it fit a little bit better. I'll leave it at that.
I understand. I have a few jerseys that I'm like, I can't wear that anymore.
They're good to put on the wall. I know it's like the ones I've got behind me are those are mediums. They're good to be on the wall. It's a good size for wall hanging. That one
safe on the frames.
That's right. And then the Arsenal one behind me, behind my big old head, is my son's when he was a youth medium. It fits in that frame perfectly. So, yeah. So this past match that we saw wasn't necessarily the one that we wanted. What all did you see? I went back and watched it. I know you did the same thing. I don't even know where to start. What do you want to start with?
Well, I think we talked about it before. I think it was Baby Red River had come into our match with them on a long break. And I think the first thing before I even watched the game, I thought, how are we going to look after 10 days off? Yes, we needed the break from playing the games, but however, I was kind of worried about the rust, and 7 minutes in to concede on a very similar situation of what we conceded against Red River, where we were trying to build out of the back and were unable to necessarily scan and see the pressure quick enough. And then just a absolute brilliant individual effort from Dugan for Hattiesburg to just kind of weasel his way into some space and get a shot off. I mean, we're down 1-0, and then 5 minutes later, kind of a similar situation where we're trying to build out of the back with kind of not enough urgency, lose the ball, concede a free kick, and then header by Hattiesburg to put them, I think it was Kai Thurston, that put them ahead 2-0. And then after that, it was just kind of frustration for the boys in blue as they ran into some red card situations, and it ended up just kind of getting down to 10 men before halftime. And it's tough. It's tough because at that point, you're really kind of thinking it's not necessarily can we win, but can we actually just keep this respectable and keep the goal differential reasonable, which they did. They did a good job of that, battening down the hatches and then scoring that goal out of halftime.
Yeah, it wasn't it was what looked like the ship on fire going down fast. In the nutshell of it, yeah, it wasn't pretty. That wasn't a good look. But in the grand scheme of things, we're not in a position to where this loss could eliminate anything moving forward. All right, let me ask you this, because again, I went back and watched it because it's World Cup time. I watched the World Cup live, so I knew that I could go back and watch the on-demand play. Was it just me, or did it seem that cards were shown quickly?
Well, obviously, I've tried to be better over the past 3 years and tried to turn a leaf. I did feel like the first one, obviously, referee discretion. We're going to respect the referee's decision.
Absolutely.
However, that second card to put us down to 10 men, I scratched my head on that one. And I do think that maybe that they were too close together, the two fouls, but then just to give that one out so quickly just seemed a little too urgent for the referee to like kind of stamp his mark on the game, or maybe felt because the game never felt out of control.
No,
I don't think neither team really was battling that hard physically. I don't think neither team was late on tackles that often. So I think that first red card, definitely where it was the second yellow too, I just didn't really necessarily like that decision. Now the second one, obviously that was also a second yellow card, happened in the second half, so there was time between the two cautions that were issued. But yeah, I do think there was a little bit of a trying to put his mark on the game a little too much, which I think frustrated, and it kind of took us a little bit out of our game, which we haven't run into that situation except for maybe down at Louisiana Crew, where cards were handed out a little quick. But even then, I don't know if it was as quick as last night at Tatum Park. Again, referee's discretion. They're trying to manage the game. It's tough. There's 4 of them. There's 22 players on the field, and as I know as a coach too, I mean, there's us barking from the sideline as well. So I don't want to be a ref. I'll just say that.
I'm totally with you there. I refereed for a good 4 years, and that's something that I won't go back. That's why I always talk about, the man in the arena kind of position. I get it, but sometimes I can have questions, and it's not that I'm questioning their ability. It's just, I kind of want to know their fault.
I thought it was really quick, though. I mean, if I'm just going to say just one sentence summary, I thought that first red card, I hate to use the word soft because I've been shown issued a yellow card for using that word towards an official, but I thought it was a little soft. I don't think you're wrong. Now,
okay, so now let's flip it around. So, a former English teacher, we talk about active voice and passive voice. Passive voice, something happens to the subject. Active voice, the subject happens to the predicate. What does a player and a coach think during that situation when you have one yellow card? What are the things that a player and a coach teaches a player of how do you manage yourself in those situations? Now, the two who got the two yellows, if you notice where they were positioned in the middle of the field. These are two players that are continuously involved in anything and everything. And I like the aggressiveness. I think the way that they played, I like it. But going in and having one yellow card already, what is the approach for a player and a coach when that situation arises?
So from a player perspective, having played, and not on this level, but anytime you are issued a yellow card, you do kind of start limiting the tackles that you go into. Definitely any kind of 50-50 loose balls, stay on your feet a little bit more. Also, I would say that your positioning is everything at that point in time. I'm going to make sure that I do my work to get back into the defensive shape a little bit more often rather than having to, as you said, react. I'm being proactive. I'm actually going to make sure that I'm behind the ball 9 times out of 10, and I'm not actually trying to hustle back. And that's where those fouls come from too. A lot of times is you're out of position, and it's not that you're not good at playing as a defender or you're not good at winning the ball off the opponent. But you'll watch numerous games over the summer in the next 5.5 weeks, or even with the World Cup, or even any other type of soccer you can digest. And when a foul is given, a lot of times they're not where they're supposed to be in the system, and it hurts them. And as a coach, that's where you start really kind of, you got to watch them. You got to watch them a little closer, because at that point, I remember I've gotten a yellow card before and I didn't play the rest of the game because, my coach knew, hey, watch him. You know what I'm saying? In that moment. And
not Will Nations. Will Nations is a slow-going, late to react sort of individual.
Yeah. Not hooting and holdering. Yeah. Very, very chill guy.
That's the word, chill. That's the word that I would put to you.
But I respect that for that coach that time. He was like, yeah, you're not going back. And that'll be an off-air story I'll have to share with you, because there's a fella in Tupelo I don't think is very high on me after that yellow card I was given. Probably should have been upgraded, but I'll tell you that on a later date.
That's good. There's no video, no picture. It didn't happen. We can make the story up down the road. So kind of going into this next match, knowing that you're down two men again, like I said, that are instrumental. The bench is deep. We've seen that. We know that we can have different formations. We found a formation that was glorious and worked, but also the other ones, you can't even call it an A line, a B line, and a C line. It's like an A1, A2, and an A3. Do you think that Coach Azira has too much of a problem now being two men down, or do you think this is another chance to just be experimental?
I think, as you mentioned, this loss doesn't hurt us right now. And I think you're looking at next match, I believe, is at Little Rock, War Memorial Stadium in Little Rock, Arkansas. I think you go up there with the idea of, we've tied these guys. We just kind of need to get out with a point. I think these away games, anytime that you can walk away splitting the points, I think that's a little easier too. I don't necessarily think Mike's going to get in front of the guys in the dressing room and be like, all right, guys, all we got to do is survive for 90 minutes and walk out of here. Going to be a little more like, hello, like, keep it simple. Let's win some set pieces, defend our hearts out on set pieces. Don't give away anything cheap. And if at the end of 90 plus minutes, we're a point to the good, that's going to be a victory in itself. And we get those guys back from the suspension of the red card. So I think the approach is going to be a little different, but I still think you can go out there and win it. And like you said, there's plenty of depth on the team this year to where we're not necessarily going to be like, 6 in the back, turtle shell, everybody hide and get away from, playing soccer. It's going to be just a little bit more cautious, maybe just a little bit more, direct, and this is what we're going to do.
Yeah. What do you think about the value that you got to see right there at the beginning of the second half with Julian Recalde? We talked about how valuable he was coming back from that slow injury, and so he didn't get to play the first handful of games, but he was instrumental in that last home win we had. But it even showed a man down playing with 10 men. He came out of the right into the second half ready to go.
Yeah, no. The great run from him to split the two center backs. Also, excellent turn and vision from I believe it was Sabe. Um,
Mhm.
Zalo was absolutely spot on with that pass, well weighted and in the right spot. Those are the ones where working with younger players, whether it is 7-a-side, 9-a-side, or even at the high school level, I would love to clip that run that were called a made
Mhm.
because it was a nice little diagonal run, but that started on the inside shoulder of their left back. And, he made the run. There wasn't a guarantee he was going to get that ball, but making the run and anticipating that that ball could come paid off and made it a game for, another 20 minutes because you're a set piece away or just another good vertical counterattack away from tying it at 2-2, and then no
Yep.
telling what happens.
That was the thing that I noticed about that run. You're talking about that beautiful run going right up the middle. It wasn't an accidental goal, but I've seen it so far in the we saw it in the Premier League. Of course, you're gonna see it in the Premier League, but in the World Cup and even in the USL too, there've been lots of those diagonal runs going right up the middle to where you catch that ball almost like a quarterback throws it to a wide receiver and it's just dead in the air and then you finish it off right there. That was a beautiful goal. I wish the rest of the match could reflect that same approach, but it was good. It showed the soundness of what's being done on the pitch during training sessions. Speaking of the World Cup, have you been watching any of it? I'm sure you have. What are your thoughts so far on the World Cup?
No, I think the lead up to it was trying to spoil it. I think just any time it doesn't, you don't want to use the word controversial, but
Mm-hmm.
I think Russia 2018 followed by Qatar 2022, and then some people could say USA 2026, but it's really Mexico, USA, and Canada. Once it starts, I think the main thing is just the beauty of the game that unites so many people. You see the
Mm-hmm.
Scottish fans in Boston. Belting out Flower of Scotland, being met outside of Gillette Stadium by tailgates. It just the uniting factor of the World Cup. Mexico playing at Azteca, South Korea down there in Guadalajara, but also I've seen so many countless videos that have just reflected how uniting a round spherical object and two nets or post or whatever you want to put
Yeah.
up can bring everybody together. And I know my hot take was we might get grouped as the U.S. national team. Glad that I'm wrong. If I can be a day one hater and
No.
motivate,
Oh yeah.
I will do it. But that was outstanding soccer. I said that might have been the best I've seen us play, definitely in 10 years. I could even argue that was reminiscent to me. I know it's not the same team, Paraguay and Portugal, kind of different uh, uh, associations, but that felt like 2002 a little bit. That felt
Mm-hmm.
like attacking soccer. Some ideas were flowing. Some young players were actually putting their stamp on
Yeah.
it. And so that was exciting to watch on Friday. The U.S. men's take a 4-1 win over Paraguay, but they got a tough one on
Yeah.
Friday
They've got a big
against
one on Friday.
Australia.
Socceroos. It's going to be a good one. The thing that I liked is kind of the same blessing I think we have with our Mississippi Brilla FC team that we haven't had in the U.S. team before is depth. We've had
Mhm.
quality, could be a sub. Now we've got guys that you could have 22 starters on that team. When Christian Pulisic came off, I thought that was a wise decision. That the U.S. was up already. There's no need in leaving him in there where he could possibly get hurt. He was going to be fine. He gets a week's rest and all that. And then sending in Berhalter right there, and I think having that kind of energy, putting in Gio at the end, man, that made me
Yes.
happy. And I kind of like that. I know it's not. He'd rather play a lot more minutes, but I like that that final dagger of we can send somebody else out in the last 10 minutes that's going to really make your efforts hurt.
Well, and I'm thinking from a coaching perspective, I think you sit down every player that's ever played any sport, and they're going to tell you, yes, I want to play more minutes. But when you find a guy that Gio Reyna could have came out, games put away, it's 3 to
Mm-hmm.
1, but he was awesome that entire time that he was on the pitch, and then obviously gets rewarded with a goal. And I tell you this, I'm watching it live, and watching Potch run down to the corner flag with the rest of the team and celebrating with Gio and the guys. We needed that. We needed a coach that wasn't, just kind of trying to be robotic. Or I love the fire that Potch brings. Obviously, a little biased since the Tottenham experiment with him. However, I just kind of think he's just one of those guys. He's just a guy's guy, and he's about the United States. I've loved everything that he's talked about. He's been critical at times when we needed to be critical, but also he's been really the biggest fan of our players as well.
So the last thing, we've got 3 matches that are coming up. We've got 2 on the road and then 1 back right here. No, we have 1 on the road and 2 back right here. I got it mixed around. So we're going to be, like you said, we're going to be in Little Rock, followed by Memphis and then the Jackson Boom. I've said before that the Jackson Boom, they're sitting at 0 points, 0 points per match. They've yet to get a point, but they're not a bad team. Everybody's good. I am of the opinion we've got to come out of these 3 matches with 9 points. We don't need 2 wins and a draw. What do you think gets us to those 3 wins, 9 points after these 3 matches?
I think with 9 points, I would say 9 points could be attainable though too. I think 7 also would be a successful. I completely understand what you're saying with that. I've said whoever gets 12 points off of Memphis and Jackson Boom, so on the home and away trips with them, has a very good shot. But I do think in competition for a top spot with Little Rock, you're going to have to beat them. And I think you kind of think about Ric Flair. You want to be the man. You got to beat the man, and they're the man right now. To kind of say if we get 9 points, I think what it's going to take is a little bit of more direct soccer. I think getting it up faster rather than slower build up is going to have to happen. I also kind of think that just defensively sound, but obviously we've got a challenge on Saturday. So I'm hoping we can figure that out. 9 points is attainable, though. I do think it could happen. We had Little Rock where we wanted them 2 weeks ago, and who's to say we can't do it then?
Yeah, I think the mental toughness of where we are now, again, everything is so fused so fastly. So I think that where we are now versus 2, 3, 4 matches ago, I think we're a tighter group, and so I think the maturity of where they are now, I think it's going to show in these next 3 matches. Like I said, I think we need 3 wins. I think that would make things a little healthier moving into the end. But 7 points could work, but I'd like the 9.
Oh, I'd like the 9 too. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but I'll accept 7, but I definitely think 6 have to come against Memphis and Jackson Boom for sure, and keeping home field advantage. But you're right, though, considering that it's points per match, 9 points actually could be nice in your pocket over the next 3 games.
Really could. Well, Will, I appreciate your time. I always kind of steal some time from you in the middle of the day, so I appreciate it. You look great in your Brilla old school throwback jersey, and I will catch you on the next time, and then I will see you on the live streams coming up with 2 more matches after this next Saturday.
Sure thing.
All right, I'll talk to you later. Yep. All 7 teams in the Mid-South Division have at least 5 matches under their belt. The Crew and Red River are the only 2 teams who have 7 matches on their chart, with Hattiesburg, Memphis, and the Jackson Boom with 6 matches. Little Rock and Brilla both have 5. They will move up to 6 this next weekend. This allows us to look at the standings in the table with a little more acceptance, but it also means that there's plenty of soccer to be played. No one is truly safe if you're looking at having security in the spot that you're in. So let's take a look at where everyone is. Little Rock, of course, is sitting at the top with 13 overall points and 2.6 points per match. The Crew is coming in at second. They also have 13 points total, but their 7 matches played have brought their points per match to 1.86. Again, the overall points will be what we look at once the season concludes, but right now we're riding with the points per match, or PPM. This sets the Crew up in a really good position because, again, they have more matches already played and they already have a high number of total points. Following in third is Brilla. That loss against Hattiesburg didn't help their efforts to climb the table, but they're not out of it like we've mentioned before. They've got 7 matches to go. Brilla has 8 total points and 1.6 points per match. Speaking of Hattiesburg, the win over Bria put some fuel in their tank as they shot upwards. They now have 9 total points and 1.5 points per match. Red River sits in 5th with 9 total points and 1.29 points per match. Memphis is still a team that the others need to keep an eye on as they make their way through the season. They've only got 5 total points, 8.83 points per match. They're probably not going to rise to the top. However, they have the rest of this season to play spoiler, and they're probably going to do that. In the Jackson Boom, they are still on the hunt for their first point, but in similar fashion to Memphis, they can play spoiler for teams looking to separate up top. Like I said, Mississippi Brilla FC has 7 matches left in this season, and since the USL League 2 season is always a sprint from the start, I will shoot it straight myself. The boys in blue cannot afford another match like the one they had against Hattiesburg. They can't afford to concede goals. They can't afford to obtain cards, and they have to play, and they really can't play that clawback game. They need to get out in front early. When it comes to discipline on the pitch, whether they draw an officiating crew that is so glaringly card happy or who lets the boys wildly play on, this level of soccer requires the ability to adjust to the elements at hand. I usually, save the man in the arena phrase referring to the officials, and I know that I can use it here when it comes to the 11 on the pitch for both teams. I mean, heck, I'm not on the field. My 41-year-old self couldn't hang with any of these guys if I tried. But I do know soccer, and I do know Coach Azira. He's not going to condone accruing such a high number of yellows for questionable challenges, especially if a player has a caution already to his name. It'll be addressed from the top level down, yes. But I also have a feeling it'll be addressed by player leaders like Juan Diego Corral and Gabriel Sa. This summer is only going to get hotter, so keeping a cool head will be the difference from postseason possibilities and ending the season solely playing for pride. I still think Bria has more than a shot. I really think they will get there, to be quite honest. They just can't afford any more glaring mistakes. Now this week, the boys will host the Path to Pros camp right here in Clinton, Mississippi. This is a massive opportunity for our guys to get to know the young ones, the little ones who may one day hold their position and wear a jersey just like them for USL League 2 team. We have a couple of players that did exactly that. They went from little ones from the hometown team to playing for Big Brilla. I'm talking about Hayden Thomas and Cody Barnett. These two have already seen playing time, and they have set themselves up for success over the next few years. I hope to talk with them right here on the podcast in the next few weeks. I'll make it happen, and I can't wait to make it happen. Next up for Bria will be another match on the road, this time against Little Rock Rangers on Friday, June the 20th, followed by 2 back-to-back home matches against our friends from Tennessee. Memphis will come to Clinton on Wednesday, June 24th, and the Jackson Boom will head down our way on Saturday, June the 27th. Like I said, the season is far from over. We've just got to take care of business. On June 28th, we need to sit in a position where we can talk about how we got all 9 points. I still believe that. We talked earlier and heard from Coach Will Nations about 7 would work, but I really think that having all 9 points in our win column will be the difference. Thanks again to my friend Will Nations for his time and his insights into the season so far. Last time I said we were going to get some new content, and I've already talked with the USL League 2 offices, and so I've got something in the works for that. We'll probably see that bit of content next go-round. Follow this podcast on all of the social medias at Big Brilla Pod. You can catch us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Big Brilla Pod. Like, follow, share. It helps me out. Just share with everybody. Even share with your grandmother. She might not care, but share just for me. I will see you on the live stream at the next home match. We'll be watching on the live streams from Little Rock this next weekend, and I'll see you down the road right here at the Big Brilla Podcast. Be sure to cheer for the boys in blue and up the Brilla.